Hello, 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 and welcome to DevHeads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings-on of game dev with host experience from indie, double, to AAA. I'm Jay, and I'm joined by, as always, my wonderful co-hosts, Tina.
Hi, how's it going?
Mikey.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have I don't know why I'm doing this voice. We have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine, Mr. Jarory de Jesus. Hello, bud.
Hello, it's actually De Jesus.
De Jesus, sorry, I'm
Spanish.
I'm
You're
British.
totally fine. It's fine.
I'm so ignorant of your culture. How dare I? And
There was only a war between Spain and England for what, a couple hundred years.
Hey, dude, I wasn't born yet. I don't know. And I want to apologize to the viewers and the listeners who are here live for the short delay, and I will take full responsibility for this. When we schedule, it's usually Mikey's responsibility, who's amazing at doing all that. But today it was mine, and I said, "Hey, Jarory, show up at 10." But instead of saying 10 a.m., for some reason I said PM. I'm sure you were probably like, the pod's at 10 p.m. That's weird. Sure. So
actually, my actual thoughts, yes.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a mix-up, but luckily Jarory could just come on and get on super fast. So big thank you to you for coming on so quickly, dude. Thank you.
So last minute, thank you.
Happy to be here,
it, dude.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been last minute, but it is. But
I'm only going to be happy if I get to see Ludo before this podcast is over.
Dude, she's not here. I'm in America currently, and she's still in England. I know. We're in the process of trying to get her here,
cancels.
but I know you just immediately leave. I miss her so dearly. But what we'll do is we'll have you back on the pod when she's here.
Deal.
We'll do that. All right, cool. So for the listeners and the watchers, can you introduce yourself? Like, where have you been? What are you about? Tell us about yourself.
What have you done?
My name's Jarory de Jesus. I've been in this games industry since 2017, so quite a while now. I got a master's degree in game development, actually, from UCF in Florida. From there, I worked on Madden. I've worked on Marvel Strike Force, and probably the one that most people would know is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, where I really got into the narrative design aspect of game development. I left that job to go live in Finland for 2 years, where I was working for Housemarque on an unannounced project that I cannot talk about legally as a narrative designer. After that, I decided to strike out on my own. So now I run my own studio called Coquito Games, where we are working on a couple projects, and I'm also contracting out my labor for another studio named Lunacy, helping them with their indie project as well.
And what does a narrative designer do? Just so our listeners know.
Oh boy, what don't I do? No, so a narrative designer is distinctly not a writer, and I always tell people this because I think a lot of people want to get into the games and they go, "Oh, but you're a narrative designer," and they confuse it with writing. They're responsible for how the story feels, not what story is being told. So a lot of like timing on VO and a voiceover, and how it feels to talk and interact with characters. A lot of systems for how you can interact with different characters. So like conversations, cutscenes, video logs, audio logs, things like that. Those are all under the domain of a narrative designer. And then on a high level, you're also working with the story beats themselves. And so you're not writing the minute-to-minute dialogue, but like at Lunacy as their lead narrative designer, I do a lot of the high-level story beats from A to B. And then we have a writer who comes in and actually fills in the details in between. And my job is more of an editor at that point.
Yeah.
I think to add some color to that, it can involve writing, right? Like it really does depend on the team and stuff. But yes, like a narrative designer can find themselves doing plenty and then some without even like actually writing dialogue proper.
Yeah, on Jedi, I only wrote barks. So for those who don't know what that is, it's the things that the enemies yell out while you're fighting. So I did a lot of the boss barks. And I did a lot of stormtrooper barks.
Boss Barks just sounds like a great, just a great.
Boss Barks is actually my next game. No, I'm kidding.
Surprised that I'd buy Boss Bark. Yeah,
I've done a bunch of that, and it's very hard to do, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to talk as much sass as you can in 10 words or less, and do that 10 times over.
In my experience, it would be I need to think of literally, and I don't mean literally like people mean it now. I mean literally 60 different ways to say you're reloading.
Yeah.
And 30 are when you're stressed, and 30 are when you're non-stressed or unsuppressed. We called it, and it's you have to deliberately be like a little less creative because if you're like wild and colorful and fun with each line, they'll stick out, and people will be like, "Oh, okay, I heard that one before. Oh, that one goes on too long. Now I'm unimmersed." It's a strange balance.
Fun fact: I did a little bit of writing on Madden early on because I was also embedded on the narrative team as a technical designer there, and I remember the first time they gave me a writing assignment, it was this like a junior and senior player on a team because we had these like text message systems where you as a player could receive text messages from other players on your team or either coaches or even other opponent teams, which I helped code for, and then I did some writing for it and I submitted it, and the lead writer was like, "This has too much flavor. You can't use this because any player could say that." Given our system, so we didn't want to assign character to a player who might not speak that way. So it had to be more generic. It's the only time in my entire career I've ever gotten the advice to make it more generic.
Wow.
Yep.
You did your job too well.
And it makes sense, right? Because it doesn't matter. This is me speaking a bit from my experience, but it sounds like it's kind of matching your experience.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing writing or narrative design, like you have to keep in mind it doesn't really matter how much you want to be creative, and being creative and fun and having interesting things being said by characters can actually be bad because your goal isn't to be impressive, right? Your goal isn't to make this person be creative in those moments. Your goal is to depict that scene in a certain way, which is often about like being immersive, which can mean, in a sense, boring, and then also let players fill in the rest, which is sound like especially what they stressed with you and they gave you the feedback.
Oh yeah, I did improv for 5 years back in college and afterwards, and everything was always supposed to be the way we were trained is like it's in service to the scene. So your job isn't to be the most creative, impressive, standout individual in the scene. Your job is to make your partner look good and make the scene look good. And sometimes that means being the straight man and not, being in on the joke, even though you're as an actor in on the joke, your character isn't in on the joke, so that everyone else looks better. And that means playing a little boring, and that's fine. You don't always need to be the most creative person in the room, and as long as the story being told feels good, then you have done your job.
You are holistically being more creative, right? Because like in your service to your lead, when that lead said, "Hey, we got to tone these down," there was principally this is how it works. There's a higher level vision, right, that you're working toward, and to hit that vision, your lines needed to be the way that they were directing. And then hopefully through all that, there's the success of like, here's the project and there's the creativity, but it's a group creativity instead of individual, which is important. And just one of the cool things about game dev, and this happens in film too, of course, but one of the cool things about collaborative creative endeavors.
I have to take a total side tangent here because I saw on the shared video screen a very old video of me being shared.
Wait, can we play it again?
Is this a video of you doing improv?
Slam poetry, actually.
No shit.
The first art form I ever fell in love with.
Eric's a wizard.
Jarory,
it's on YouTube.
This?
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I do have a YouTube channel.
What was this? Do you remember what this slam poetry was about?
Yeah, this one is very dear to my heart. It's there's two videos on there. One is more like a lyrical flexing video, just because I could do it, Yeah. And the other one is my brother. When we were younger, my brother had went away to jail, and he wrote me a letter, and I couldn't bring myself to write the letter back, so instead I wrote a poem, and that poem became that performance about how, all my feelings on all that, and it was really well received. People loved it. So
sweet, dude. What was it like to perform
man,
that?
It came from such a real place.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jake, go ahead. Yeah.
It's a really, I don't, how do I put this? I remember one time I performed it, and I actually went off stage and almost threw up because it's so emotionally intense.
Yeah.
And this is actually a good segue into one of the subjects we wanted to talk about, which was the indie stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah.
The slam poetry to me nestles right into hip hop, which is I did a lot of hip hop beats and instrumentals and writing rap lyrics and all that back from that era when I was kind of engrossed in the culture. And now as a game dev, I want to bring that to people. And so the actual project we're working on called Concrete Rose, inspired by a poem from Tupac called "The Rose That Grew from the Crack in the Concrete," kind of borrows from this experience that I had writing these lyrics and making these beats, where you play as a DJ fighting aliens. I kind of buried the lead there a bit.
Slam poetry, DJ fighting aliens, you know, these things go hand in hand, you know. Can you speak about mechanically, like how are you folding in hip hop into, is it a more of a thematic thing, or are you trying to fold it into like the gameplay side of things? Like, are you able to describe some of the
this is my project, I can talk about whatever I want, right? So.
Hell yeah.
You know, this is one of the hardest challenges I've had, is actually I want to make this mechanically and thematically a hip hop game without making it a music game. So, you know, because to me, hip hop is more than music; it's a culture. You know, it comprises the music, but it also comprises fashion and graffiti, and you know, a bunch of other parts of the culture as well. And so, but I didn't want it just to be an aesthetic, right? Like Jet Set Radio, I love Jet Set Radio, but they borrow hip hop as an aesthetic without really delving into the cultural meanings of hip hop. You know, same with like Pop Rapper the Rapper and a few other games that use hip hop as a framework for their game. And the low hanging fruit is always rhythm, no matter what. Even Jet Set Radio, I'll argue, is a rhythm game because it's mechanics. When you spray paint, you have to do the rhythm based part of it. So, obviously, our game has some rhythmic elements, but the way it works is it's a JRPG is what we went for, actually. So it's kind of turn based combat. But we're borrowing from the Child of Light style, where it's a timeline. However, instead of putting the attacks on the timeline, you put them on a record. You spin the record, and when the record hits the needle, that's when your attack executes.
That's when the action happens. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still got a semblance of timing, but you're planning.
Exactly.
You're planning that stuff, right? It's not necessarily a rhythm thing. It's more of a sequential. And it sounds like JRPG thing, right?
The most important component to me is it's more than that, right? You have that element, and then you have the depiction of the culture, I think, is exactly describing it.
Yeah. And the last bit of mechanics that this one came in very late, actually. I was hanging out with a friend back in Finland. I was having him play the game, and he picks up the controller. He's like, what I want to do with this controller as a DJ is just like a DJ. And then I was like, you know what's brilliant. And so what we added it in to really add to that DJ feel is a mechanic where you can, while the attacks are spinning, there's a window where the needle is and a window where they start blinking. And if you take the right stick and move it up and down, you can move the record back and forth, which becomes faster and faster, similar to the boomerang mechanic in Sea of Stars. Yeah, same idea.
Like a timing thing, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you get the timing right and keep going on it, you can keep increasing the power of the attack, and then it'll hit the needle and go off from there.
I love that. So that's really nice to hear. And yeah, I used to, I mean, not many people, especially second win people, I used to be a DJ.
No way.
Years.
Okay, magician.
Yeah, I was
DJ.
just thinking.
I'm gonna keep a list of all of
Eric will not be able to find images of me DJing because they're all on my private Facebook.
Eric's smiling quietly right now
because he's like, I will find.
I bet he can. And I bet he will. Jay, where do you find the time to practice all these?
This was all when I was younger. I really liked.
Okay, when you say younger, it's not like you're pushing
no, but I did these things. So I was a magician from 17 to 20, and I was a DJ from 16 to 18. And I did these. I got paid to do these things.
Where?
Like gigs. I wasn't like a wedding DJ. I did back when I was, a stupid teenager. I was really into and this is gonna date me and also sound really cringe, but I really liked dubstep and horrible electronic music.
You're allowed to like dubstep and electronic.
I'm not that into it anymore. I'm not that into it anymore. But I would play sets where I would be invited to go play sets at at gigs and stuff, and I would.
I don't know why I'm picturing this is in England, right? So
yeah,
some bar a pub or something. I don't know.
They're they were like weird underground dance.
Ooh,
like
spicy
places. Yeah.
Like in Liverpool.
The stuff I played,
where are we talking?
I have recordings of my sets.
I'm picturing the Matrix.
Dark,
right?
Yeah, very Matrix.
Like a white rabbit, tattoo.
Yeah, like dark, full of smoke. And the stuff I played was like very horrible, like bass tones that would like make you feel ill. And I really liked
GI track
because there'd be like the generic shit, and people would be like, "Yeah,"
get
and
your
then I'd
bowels
come on to
moving
do my set
with the bass.
I've got recordings of my sets. I'll send it to you guys. Yeah,
okay. That'll need to be shared.
God,
like,
I would love.
But I stopped doing
it.
Because I love doing it. The act of DJing, not in the sense of like doing it like a wedding where you're just playing the hits that people want to hear, but like the actual act of blending between tracks that not only carry the same thematic mood, but also, lining up the BPMs and then finding A and B sections of their songs to like switch between them and like blend them. I love that because like I've been writing music and playing instruments my whole life. And that's just super satisfying. And that mechanic Jarory, you were describing, like that, it really speaks to that, right? That those little embellishments you can add to this stuff that's, usually
right, because it's already something that people have done, and all you're doing is now delivering it in a new vehicle for people, putting your own, pardon the pun, putting your own spin on it. Just to engage everyone in the art together. So it creates a nice, fun mechanic. One other mechanic we've been tinkering with, because initially we had 2 records, one for you, one for the enemy, and that became in playtesting we found that was too much to people to track. But we had a crossfade mechanic where you could like double or half their power by like switching records, and that was really fun. So we're trying to figure out how we can integrate that crossfade mechanic in a more streamlined way where you don't need to look at 2 records. So we're tinkering with like a sample pad on the left side and a record on the right side, and maybe the sample pad might work like the Mega Man Battle Network chip system. That's kind of what we're leaning towards.
This is what's so cool about what you're doing. I think it is truly and actually unique, as in one of a kind, because I can't think of a game that's tried to gamify that experience. And I like that you're getting into the nitty gritty of like, we are going to create a video game design abstraction of crossfading, and here it is. It's sick. Like I can't think of any other game that's done that. And when games do, go ahead. Yeah.
Finish your thought, and then I'll ask my question.
Basically, it's cool when games care about the core loop of combat and gameplay in that way. That's all. Yeah.
Did you guys play DJ Hero?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
DJ Hero is. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed how they use their crossfade mechanic. It's kind of it's very similar to Guitar Hero, Rock Band kind of thing, but their crossfade mechanic is when the notes are coming down, you like would slide the crossfader over like this right here, like back, and it would move them over. So that's how they use this. So you get like bonus points for doing that.
Yeah, they're showing a video of it right now.
Right there.
It's an interesting gamification of it. But it's tough, right? Without like, just like with Guitar Hero, it's which I also loved. It's a weird condensing of a system to make you have the feeling, which is why it's great, right? You get the vibe and the satisfaction of doing the actions without needing the complex
skill,
like skill and practice, right?
It's funny because what the initial, I've been in my head designing this game for several years, but only working on it for the past few months. But in some of the initial designs, I really wanted. It's funny that they're showing the MC and like rappers on screen. I really wanted that feeling of like versatility and freestyling. And it turns out that's almost impossible to capture in a game where you have to set limits on what the player can do. But we were
how do you gamify freestyling, which is supposed to be unrestricted?
We were planning for 2 games with this. Based on the story itself, it would be easier to make a smaller, more condensed Undertale-esque like length kind of style game. and then finish telling the story in a second game with a bigger budget, all that yada yada. That's kind of how we're planning it. And so I don't know how familiar you guys are with hip hop as a culture, but generally people look at hip hop with like several pillars, 4, 5, 10, depending on who you talk to. But the ones I tend to look at are like the MC, the DJ, graffiti, and the dancer. And then some people will add fashion on top of that. And so if the first game is focused on the DJ, I really want to figure out how to gamify that freestyle for the second game and like make the MC the focus of the second game. And I'm determined to do it.
Sounds like such a challenge, though, man. Like that. I mean, I believe you can do it. It's just like I wouldn't even know where to start to gamify.
Well, there's one game.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one game I can look at, which is totally, entirely off field, but it gave me the right inspiration. Is the Plucky Squire.
Okay.
I've never heard of that.
Up, the Plucky Squire.
Yeah, it's a
sounds familiar.
Indie game of this year.
Yeah, it was one of the indie games where you like live in a fantasy world. But the important thing about the Plucky Squire, it has a mechanic where you can steal words or learn words from one book and then put that word in another book to change the outcome of that book. Because you're going from storybook to storybook, right? And I think there's something in there for how to take that and use an MC. Yeah.
Yeah. Rhyme and meter and stuff like that. That would be a really interesting way of doing it, because then you would collect specific. I guess you'd have like a library of words that some would rhyme and some wouldn't, and then you'd have to use. I guess you could gain points based on whether one, the words you're using rhyme, and two, whether they have context.
Yeah. Like, the other game I would look at is Learn Japanese to Survive.
I've not played that one. That sounds sick.
I've never heard of that
It's a
either.
JRPG that teaches you Japanese through a combat system that is about combining words to create sentences.
What?
So, yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think those two games would be the inspiration for how I would approach a freestyle game.
they sound great. And you're saying that would be like what you want to touch on in the sequel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because we're pretty knees deep in the DJ one, so I think in the second one it would be more like this.
Two questions. How long has it been in development, and what's your targeted release, if you can say?
We started development, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago. Obviously, the idea has been in my head for several years, but in terms of like serious, actually, we're building a prototype for GDC to pitch at GDC for money. That's been about 4 months. And hopefully we can have a 2-year dev cycle. So that's kind of, we're looking at maybe 2027.
So you plan to have a prototype by March of next year? Is that the plan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Nice.
Hell yeah, dude. Also, dude, I'm at GDC this year. I'll see you there.
Bet. You owe me from last year.
Motherfucker. I know, right? I owe everyone. I was my first one, and I was like, had so many people I needed to meet, and I met no one. Because we were just in meetings all day, every day. Like, it was horrific.
DJ J.
I have to do a plug.
Oh, shit. It's DJ J. He actually found one.
What, did you have a name? Did you have a DJ name, by the way?
Yeah, it was me and this other guy behind me. He's called George. And we were called A&E.
DJ, the DJs?
DJ? No, we called A&E, like accident and emergency.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. If we were teenagers, it was mad cringe. But like, I kind of miss it. It was really fun.
Bro, everything teenagers.
Oh, dude, check out my fucking new marks. I had to sell those. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
That's all my equipment down there.
Jay, you look completely unrecognizable to me.
Like, oh yeah,
because I'm like 17 in that image, dude.
I know, like it's an age thing, right? But like, you're not that old. You're not that far from 17.
13 years ago, yeah.
In human life scale, though, and also like as far as like
13 years ago, like it's a fucking long time. How dare you?
It is. Fuck you! It is a long time. Okay, so wait. So Tina, if you don't think 13 years is a long time.
Yeah.
How much older than me are you? You're 10 years. So by your definition, that's not a long time.
It feels
that's like not
it.
age fight. That's not age. My point is this.
I'm sick of being 30 years old and going bald and people telling me I'm young. Get fucked.
It's very interesting to me that you look so different just from the age difference and also I guess the removal of face and glasses. It's like stark to me. I'm just surprised.
This is nothing. Wait, Eric, I know if you found this one, this means you probably have access to a lot of my teenage photos somehow.
Go in.
I request that Eric does not post those until I give explicit permission, because I'm going to save this, because
There's
the way I looked
later.
as a teenager when I was in like a little emo kid is insane.
Man, I'm so excited to see this one later.
Did you wear eyeliner?
No, delete it, Eric. Delete it.
Wait, I want to
He
see.
just posted it in Slack. Delete it.
Where?
You did? Where? I don't see
looking.
it.
Oh wait, it's in our private DMs. Okay, Eric,
You guys are good.
post those. Keep those between us until I would say.
Damn.
Jesus.
I do have to
really
take
bad.
a quick aside to do a plug because you were talking about GDC. I will be speaking there for anyone who's attending.
Oh, nice. What's the topic?
So I have 2 talks. The first one is on crafting black narratives. It's actually a talk we gave at Gamescom as a panel this year. So we're doing it again at GDC. And then the other one is called The Black Designer's Dilemma, which is a panel I've been on for the past 2 years. So this is my 3rd year doing it. I'm with good friends Pamela Jarory, Kim Belair, who's the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. that some people might know about, and Carl Vernado, the former director for Black and Gaming. And so the 5 of us have had really a good time with this panel, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah.
And I ask you that those sound interesting. I especially am curious about the second. What is the Black Designer's Dilemma?
It's that one has been really interesting. The way Carl does it is kind of like he doesn't tell us anything ahead of time. He prepares questions that are kind of experiences that as devs of color we're more likely to run into, and then asks us like how kind of on the fly to respond to that, and what advice we would have for someone encountering those scenarios in their day-to-day lives.
Interesting.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. I think one of them, if I remember from last year, they're all in the GDC vault, so it might be the year before, but I think it was this year. He gave us a question along the lines of like, you have someone who's been taking credit for your work and kind of silencing you at work. You know, how would you approach this scenario? How do you go about resolving this in a way that doesn't end up losing your job? That kind of thing.
And what was your response?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Because I have a response to that too.
I have several ways I would approach that, but I think my most common tactic for that scenario is like, oh, that's a great idea. Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, that works. Tina, what's yours? Get the sword out.
Dude.
The duel. Tina gets fucking German about it. She's like, all right, you're going to cut my face or I'm going to cut yours, bitch.
When you play shooters, you're kind of like on the aggressive, or like offensive. I once had a boss who would ask me to build out a full-fledged schedule and a roadmap for a department that I was producing. He wasn't a part of it at all. He wasn't in the meetings, but he would take my work and then present it to the studio head, but never include me in those meetings.
Oh.
And for the longest time, I thought that was just the norm for someone to just take your shit and present it as their own. And I thought, maybe he's like mentioning my name in the meeting.
Absolutely, he wasn't.
No. And he probably got. And here's the thing. So he never blatantly said, "This is my work." People just ran with the assumption, and he never took the opportunity to correct it.
Yeah.
So it was almost like an unspoken, well, I didn't say it was mine. So he kind of got away with it just being,
So scummy.
It's a cover, right?
Yeah,
it's deliberate. It's lying by omission, you could even say.
Yeah. I think that happens to a lot of younger game devs, especially in AAA, because the studios are so large that you can just kind of
fall into a number.
Yeah.
People are scared to speak up as well, right? Like,
and even if they wanted to speak up, Tina didn't know, right? Like you don't know.
I didn't even know that wasn't an uncommon thing. So it took me to, I demanded the promotion. That's what I did, and I think everyone should. If your work can be accredited to a director level or a lead, you should probably demand a promotion because that work is good, right? So that's what I did. I went through the motions. They said no. Then they asked me to train their senior producers, and I was like, all right, I'm out. So, I mean, it's
a fairly common. It's a fairly common practice, I think, when a job clearly doesn't care about you, you just start looking elsewhere. Like I don't stick around for jobs, especially AAA jobs that are just where they're going to turn me out. It's not worth my time. I had a part of the reason why I left my last job was something similar. I was kind of struggling financially, but I was at the kind of top end of what I can make at that junior mid-level band, and so it was like, hey, our director left, and so someone got promoted to director, which left a vacancy in our department, and I was like, hey, I'd like this role, and they're like, no, and I was like, cool, fine, whatever, it happens. But then they asked me to kind of start interviewing candidates so I could have a say in kind of who, I ended up being my director. Yeah, and that was fine with me. But when I saw some of the shortlist candidates and they were like people less qualified than me, I got very upset.
I
was like, that's a little bit frustrating, and so I kind of walked away after that.
Makes sense.
It was felt disrespectful,
Yeah, no, I would too. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Unfortunately, that's all you can really do, right? Is like walk away, and you did everything you could, and it still sucks, but you did the right thing. In a sense.
I am over AAA as a consequence of this. That's why I kind of like the indie.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. I really love indie. Like the first of all, I'm one of those multifaceted creatives. So like, I love to do the production. I love to do the design. I love to do the narrative. I love to do music. I love to do basically every aspect of game development except for art. I don't touch art because my stick figures have back problems, like it's bad. So I don't touch that. But everything else I love to be a part of. And in AAA, you're kind of shoehorned into a specific role where it's like, this is what you do. This is what your title says. This is all you do. So in indie, I have more flexibility to do the different creative parts of my brain that fascinate me. But also there's far less politics. It's more personal, like interpersonal communication with you and whoever you're working with.
That's interesting.
Whereas, don't get me wrong, I love politics in like Magic the Gathering, and when I play Commander, that's when politics.
You want your politics gamified? Yeah,
exactly.
That's what AAA is.
But I don't want to deal with that in my work life.
No.
As one of the reasons
that the politics are more present in indie, just because there's less of you and you're more involved in the day-to-day.
It's a different type of politics.
Decision making.
It's also team dependent.
Direction. Right? Yeah.
At least in indie for me, I've been blessed in my experiences as an indie developer to not really experience politics and more experience like just interpersonal relationship. Where it's like, hey, like I asked for a raise recently with the contract studio, Lunacy, and the guy was like, I wish I can give it to you. I would if I could. And we just done the budget. I was like, that's cool. I understand. We signed a contract, and I'm going to see it through. Let's just see if we could make it happen. And like that was an easy conversation to have. There was no, like positioning and like I need to set up an argument to make it look like to show why I deserve none of that.
Yeah.
Right. It was just like, hey, can I get a raise? Okay, give it to you. All right, tried. And he's like, if I have the money, we'll talk again. Cool.
Yeah. For me, the politics I've experienced in indie with the people I work with is less of you're not outright told no. There are no no's. It's more of prove it, right? Like if there's been disputes I've had with designing levels with the game I'm working on at the moment, and I designed the basement in a certain way, and I had done it in a way because in my head the flow of the level needed to go this way so the players would have sight lines, right? Because my brain thinks like that because I'm a level designer. So, but as I was doing it, the programmer came in and was like, why are you doing it like this? Why not just do it like this, which was a little bit more like boxy and normal? And I was like, well, I want to do it this way. And he was like, I think it's better the other way. And because we're at the same level on the project, right? Even though I'm the level designer, I'm not saying to him, no, I am the level designer. You listen to what I say for this. I'm like, okay, well, talk me through why you think it'd be better this way. And do you know what? I'll prototype a second version of it and we'll see if it works, right? And it's more of like, if you have a theory on if something's superior or will be better for the player experience, let's find a way to prove it rather than this no. And I think that's a budgetary thing because we have the time and the space to be able to do that because we're not working on this full time, in a AAA space where millions of dollars are getting spent every month, right?
Do that.
You just like, no, listen to your higher ups, just do what you're told. So it's just like a different, as we talk about this in DevHeads a lot, it's just different scales of money and interpersonal relationships changes those interactions. And I prefer the indie stuff. What's it like in Double, Mikey? Like, is it a middle ground between those?
Yeah, I feel like no matter what we're talking about is team dependent, AAA, AA, indie, whatever. But I do feel like in the indie and AA space specifically, it's more team dependent on if you have politics and what it's like. I think the AAA politics are worse because you have corporate structures, right? And you have more established roles, and because there's opportunities for manipulation no matter where you go, but there's
people
more
who
of a
know the
structured
rules
kind of
have a lot of advantage in those scenarios.
And people who are up at that point, I mean, they can be sort of calcified and entrenched because they've been there for a while. And again, that can happen in Indie or AA too. But I think the structure of AAA can encourage it in certain ways, is the way I would put it. I've definitely had, I don't want to go too much into detail, but like I've had situations on different teams where like there's a conflict, and instead of going to HR, we just talked it out. And I've heard stories about how going to HR would be not helpful or could even lead to somebody getting fired or quasi-fired in a pretty fucked up ways.
Yep.
And that sucks.
If
and that
they deserve it, like, who cares?
but it's situations where they didn't. I mean, that's what I'm talking about when I say fucked up. So like,
when you say
I know what you're describing.
Didn't deserve it. What? I mean, you got to paint a picture here because it's like.
Imagine reporting something to HR.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, sure, that's fair. We'll look into that." And your contract ends and doesn't get renewed. And you have to ask yourself, did HR...
You're the one that gets fired.
Yeah. Did HR let my contract end because I was trying to blow the whistle on something that was wrong that's happening at the company?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm describing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not a I reported bad guy to HR and HR fired bad guy.
That almost never happens.
That would be the system working as intended. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, right? It's different per team, and like the unfortunate reality of like how we do these podcasts and stuff is like we can only be so specific. We have to honor other people's privacy
and NDAs and our own and all that. Yeah,
NDAs, like our own lack of wanting to burn bridges and shit. That's just an undercurrent of the kind of open conversations we try to have here on DevHeads. It's how it has to be. We all still work in the industry, but it's important that we talk about these things, at least in abstract, to show people this is kind of what it's like. And the thing I'm getting at here is, like, in my experience in the indie and AA side, it was nice to just go to a person directly. And even though it's kind of harder and it seems anti-structure and like it could be a little more rabble-rousey or tribal, right? Where it could just be like, oh, the loudest people might win, or like it's too decentralized, too disorganized, and not codified. Sometimes it's better, because I've had situations where I've had a person say like, I don't think you deserve that. I deserve what you got. And I have to go, well, you and I got to talk that out then, man. And then we do. And it worked out.
Yeah. It's so bizarre to hear you all talk about what AAA is, and what you like about not being in AAA, because I have the exact opposite experience.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you're siloed into a specific responsibility, but working on Call of Duty for me was probably the craziest time in my gaming career, because they allowed me to just do my thing, but then also just expand to whatever the hell I wanted, as long as I was good with it. And
important question.
Yeah.
Which Call of Duty studio?
Infinity Ward.
Okay. I'm gonna have to. I don't want to date you, but is this pre or post
2012 to? It was post respawn.
Post respawn. Okay. I was wondering if it was like when Vince was still there, or after Vince left, or
after Vince. Yeah.
Okay.
So
do you guys want to give our viewers context who Vince is?
Vincent Pella is the studio head of Respawn Entertainment. He was also the former studio head, or one of the former studio heads of Infinity Ward. He was also at 2015. That was the name of the studio, right? That did Medal of Honor.
Men of Valor. And did they do both? Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
both.
I think they did both.
Yeah. So he's been around. He's been a huge public figure in the shooters genre for gaming. I believe that he's much higher up now at EA. I think
he's like C-suite or something.
Yeah, I think he helps run like gaming in general for EA. At least on the shooter side, because I know he's responsible for Battlefield now.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry to continue. We just wanted to give the context.
Sure. So for 5.5 years, I was doing like my thing, but then I expanded into code. I was able to do build and release stuff. I helped multiplayer with playtests and running those. So I think that what's fascinating about my experience in AAA is that if you are multi-talented, you're much more valuable to them as a studio than if someone came in saying like, I can only do this one thing.
Do you think a lot of that might be due to your role as well? Like as a producer, it lends itself to, if you have that talent, which you clearly do.
Yeah.
You can be moved quite easily to something else. But like, let's say you're an environment artist.
Yeah.
You also have you're great at texturing, or you're great at doing some of like animations. Do you think it'd be harder to move into animation internally, or do you reckon does that stuff happen? Did you see that happen?
I did see people jumping between departments. For instance, one of my really good friends, Oscar, he started off as an artist, a 3D character artist, and then he jumped into making multiplayer maps. And so when he's in a bind, he'll just make a prop on the fly, pop it into his map for cover or whatever. He helps direct some of the art for his maps now, and like the vision of it. So I feel like there's value there in being able to like multitask in AAA.
I find
100%.
I have a hypothesis because this is 2012, right, to like 2017 roughly.
Even now they still value.
I'm wondering though if maybe your experience is a little different, because like, so for context, my partner also works on COD at one of the other studios, and she's had the hardest time getting that lateral movement across, despite being multifaceted and talented. They've tried to shoehorn her into what she does best, and so she's had a totally different experience. And I'm wondering if it's a consequence of the game dev space becoming more saturated. So it's harder to move across when there are more specialists, especially in the AAA space. There are more specialists who are more narrow. So like, you end up with like your systems designers who are really good at economy design, and that's all they do. And if you are making like a live service game, you want that person to do that thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, maybe your experience is different, 10 years ago versus now.
I could see that being the case, a saturation thing. I could also see this as we might be casting a little bit too wide of a net, too big of a blanket. Like we talk AAA, and if you were gonna generalize, AAA would be the space to do it in, because there's so much money, things can kind of generalize. But it's team culture dependent too. Not all AAAs are created equally.
I think it depends on their seniority. I think the biggest pitfall a lot of game developers fall in is that they don't train the people below them to eventually replace them. Because I think there's an innate fear sometimes in AAA where if someone else can do what you do, then you're like, oh, I'm not valuable anymore, which I think is the exact opposite of the way you need to think. If you want to progress in your career, or even like make a different move to another department, you need to be able to have your replacement available, or the people underneath you at least trained enough to take over your responsibilities when you're sick even, right? So, I mean, I went from community management at Infinity Ward to production, for instance, and I think that it could be a studio culture thing too. Like, I would just hate to throw like a sweeping general statement across all AAA like damning studios, because that's not been my case at all.
It's the same for indie as well. Like we talk about it positively, but there are also
lots of horror stories.
There's a horrible teams of people where their leadership is like, no, you listen to what I say, you do what I tell you, and also you have to do everything. You have to model, you have to texture, you have to do sound design, while having someone tell you what they want, right?
A couple of years back, Toby Fox was hiring for Deltarune, and Undertale's one of my favorite games. And I literally sat there and had a conversation with a friend and be like, is this worth applying for? No shade to Toby Fox. I don't know the man at all. But it was like, at that point, it was like he had never worked with the team. And so it was like, do I want to run the risk of someone either being the best team player possible or having no idea how to work with the team? You know, like, this is such an unknown quantity. And I heard so many horror stories of, like, you know, people who just, I want to make a game and, you know, didn't know how to work with the team and that falling apart. So I was like, I'm going to wait off on this one. Luckily, it seems my fears were unfounded, and it seems like he's doing really well. And the team's coming well, so I'm excited for the next couple of Deltarune chapters. But that 100%. We've heard so many horror stories that, like, there is totally a reason to have that hesitancy in the indie space as well, because they do exist.
Yeah. Sometimes the structure of AAA succeeds and allows people the opportunities to grow and allows people to learn wonderful things and get good experience from other experienced people. And indie shit can be a real shit show. It's not even funny.
Yeah, to give credit where credit's due, Respawn, without it, I would not be at the level I'm at today as a developer. Like, I learned so much on Jedi. It was an insane level of, like, information overload almost, but it's helped me in my career more than any other job.
That's actually a good transition, I feel like. That's something we want to kind of dig into because it's so much a part of who you are as a developer. When it comes to your time on there, talk about learning stuff. What are some of the things that you learned?
Sure. I mean, on a technical level, there are just some fundamentals, like, you know, working in Unreal, and just like how to use. Like, I had worked with gameplay tags before, but this was a whole new level of working with gameplay tags, for example, and how to use them in a narrative system. I got to go more into C++, which I already know how to do, but I got to go more in depth and on hands with it, which was really nice. I learned a lot of like we had like the big plot twist at the end of Jedi, and I remember coming on board like, there's no way no one's going to see this coming, right? And then I see all the comments like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I was like, but you're so close to it. So what that taught me was, like, I should not be the judge of whether my story is effective. You know, because I'm so close to it, and I can't possibly. And what it taught me was to get that story in front of, like, previewers as early as possible to get feedback and see how people think. You know, focus testing, exactly. And so little lessons like that just hadn't really come up in my career yet because I wasn't as close to that level of work as I had been.
Yeah. Did they so with, like, going into C++ and Unreal, was that stuff that was built into your role through some training, or was that just picked up?
That was picked up. It was like, I already knew C++ from my first project that I built in grad school because I learned it for that. But I wasn't good at it. But it was enough that I knew how to worm my way around. And so being on Jedi, I was able to actually, like, connect the dots between what was going on in C++, what nodes I was calling in blueprints, and the outcome in the game. And so once I was able to kind of make that more cohesive, I could, like, you know, at Lunacy now, I built most of their systems in C++ for a narrative that I could.
Beautiful.
Right on.
Damn.
Did you interact with localization as well?
No, I was not at that level. I interacted a lot with VO, and the, like, casting team and the audio team for that. But as far as localization, I didn't touch that. I think that was all outsourced anyway.
You had a whole team just for casting?
There were two people, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. I guess you're seeing my AA reaction to that, because when I was doing voiceover stuff, I was like, we worked at an agency, but I was doing the casting aspect, the directing aspect, writing everything, designing the triggers.
I mean,
it sounds nice to
have Jedi was 200 people, right? So
yeah.
And that's not counting anyone we outsourced. That was just internal.
Yeah. That's true. And that's a big thing that we try to harp on this in the show, is like things people might not realize, but there's a shitload of outsourcing that has been happening for a very long time. A lot of the games that you play are actually being made in Ukraine or South America or other parts of Eastern Europe, or like you'd be surprised at how much of the stuff that you see is being made. Not just art too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Galaxy is a great example. They are like a contract studio for the most part, where they come in and they, help other studios. So when I was early on, because one of the top level guys at Iron Galaxy was also a professor at the university, he was like, "This is a good opportunity if you get in, because it'll get your name on like 5 credits in like 2 years, and then it makes it easier to find a job somewhere else."
Yeah. That's a great opportunity.
How about with the? Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. No, it's all good. You go for it.
Oh, I was gonna dig more into the Star Wars shit.
Yeah.
I'm really curious because when it comes to Star Wars, it's a big IP. Obviously, it's a big brand. I imagine, and I've heard through other people that there's a lot of restrictions when you write with big IPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of buy-in they want. There's all these fun stories of like, this character's the color of their so-and-so. It has to be this exact RGB value. Otherwise, we're not allowing you to ship it. And I wonder what that experience was like for you, because my assumption and what I've heard is with Star Wars, like, it can be really bad. It could be really bad. It could be as bad as like Games Workshop with Warhammer is another one I've heard can be difficult to work with because they have their own needs and it's important to them and you got to match them. But also you got to make the game and you got to put a little bit of your stuff into it, not just for your own satisfaction, but for people who are going to enjoy the game. That's necessary. So what was it like for you? How much was it hard to write?
I mean, again, I wrote a lot of Stormtrooper dialogue, so I interacted mostly with the writing team at Respawn to do that. And then they would get the feedback when we do punch ups. They would get the feedback from Lucasfilm, and then we would make edits based on that. So I didn't interact directly with a lot of the Lucasfilm staff. I do have a lot more experience with Marvel on Marvel Strike Force, being in meetings directly with a lot of people. Actually, one of the guys at Marvel, I later found out, played Magic at the same card shop as me.
Immediate trust, immediate connection.
Right, yeah. As did the narrative director for Strike Force. So the three of us would play Magic together and then go to work. It was really cool.
Oh, amazing.
But working with them, it was like, I remember, I think it was Moon Knight when we were developing Moon Knight before release. And we had some animations. We're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. It's going to look like this. And the guy came back, he's like, Moon Knight needs to be, I think he said, like, it needs to hurt him more because he's kind of about the pain. And so it should be a little more physical. And so they would be like that level of detail, even on the animations. Like, it needs to feel this way. Or there was another character, I can't remember who, was like, he's more in control of his powers. This feels like he doesn't have control. Things like that. I also, unfortunately, for Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man, I really tried to get a pun for his passive ability called Madrox the Gathering, and that did not fly.
Oh no, that's so good though.
It was so good. I was so proud of that one.
It's so good. Marvel, how dare you steal that from us?
Yeah, so I think the thing we want listeners to understand is when you're working on a video game, when it's your own idea, there's a lot more flexibility in the creativity that you can flex. Whereas with an IP that you're working on, there's already an established universe, established characters, established personality, even established movements, right? Like an animator can't take an AT-AT and then decide
it can
fly. Moonwalk.
Or run, right?
No,
like they have to
or even run,
or
even move at a jog.
It's
galloping on an AT-AT.
Well, with an established IP, you have a sort of approval process that you gotta add on top of your creativity, which prolongs the game dev cycle. And I don't know if a lot of gamers appreciate that. So like for Jay or Mike and I, like if we're working on a game and we like get something in the game, like that's it, right? Let's just let's play test it, let's improve it, move on. For an IP like Star Wars or even a Marvel product, you got to send it to corporate Marvel, corporate Star Wars, or whoever's like the approval process. And then they're not going to jump on it right away because they may not understand
a bunch of projects at once.
The difficulty of like, addressing feedback, right? So it's like you can send something up to them and corporate may hold on to it for like 40 days because they may not know better. Send it back and it's like, oh my God, it took like 3 months to get this character in the game. So, those things can happen.
Yeah, and from what it sounds like, Jarory, it's so you weren't too close to it, which makes sense. As you said earlier, yeah, you weren't writing too much of it. But from your view, because you were close to it, the process sounded pretty smooth. Like if you just said, okay, here's the dialogue. Do you have any feedback? Yes, here's our feedback. Okay, thanks. Here's what we did. That's fine. Bye. Was it like that, or was it like no?
From
There was a lot of back and
my
forth.
point of view, it felt that way. But that's because I wasn't in on the meetings. I have no idea if they were tense. I do know Obi-Wan came out during our development cycle, and I do remember all of us being very upset watching it.
Okay.
Because the ending is beat for beat the same ending as Fallen Order.
Oh.
Or the sequence where he goes through the Inquisitorius. That's the exact same way Fallen Order ends, including breaking the glass to bring the water in to create a distraction so he can get. That's exactly what happens in Fallen Order, and so a lot of us were like, "What the hell?" So I'm not sure if those relationships are all smooth and butterflies because there seemed to be a little tension there.
Ideally, there might have been a hey, what you're doing sounds pretty similar to this other project. Someone needs to steer in the other direction, or are you saying somebody took the idea and said, "Oh, that's cool"?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, that's a little fucked up.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't know if someone played Fallen Order and was like, "We want to do that in Obi-Wan" because it was a cool beat. I don't know, but that word of that never got to us. So we all found out at the same time watching it.
Interesting.
What a difficult conversation to have, though. You did a really good job on this. We're taking it.
Right? Yeah, but like I think even like the narrative director at the time, Aaron, would have preferred that. He would have preferred to be like acknowledged. For like, hey, this was great. We're going to use this. Like that. I don't think anyone would have been mad at that.
Yeah.
Oh, you wish that it was like a verbal confirmation before you saw it?
I think that's what the sentiment was. Again, I hadn't worked on Fallen Order, so like I had no attachment to it. Aside, like I had played the game, and that's what made me want to work on Survivor because I really liked it. But outside of that, I had no real like horse in that race. But the sentiment I got from the rest of the team who had worked on it was like, if they had a conversation, maybe then it would have been better. But like, there was a lot of salt in the air when that came out.
I'm frown smiling because
interesting.
Because I know a similar story to this, and I can't share it. But this shit happens. It's fucked up. It really is. It's just the way ownership and IP works. Like they're basically within their rights to do that, and that's that.
Yep, it is what it is.
It's theirs.
Speaking of IP, quick tangent. Something I've been trying to go back and forth on in my own indie journey is like a publisher, and how much IP rights publishers get. I feel like that is such a hard conversation to have because like I want to make 2 games. I don't want to turn over these IP rights to a publisher, but I also need the money to make the game. It's a little irony there.
It's a difficult conversation for them as well, right? Like, because they want return for what they're buying into, and part of that is the IP rights. That's tough, man. What's it like pitching for shit like that?
It's not been going easy, I'll tell you that much.
What's been the terms that you've been seeing?
Well, we haven't really gotten to terms yet. That's actually been the hard part because like we're pretty upfront about what we're looking for, and a lot of publishers are like, it doesn't fit into our schedule. It doesn't fit our. That's the other thing we're making something unique, right? It doesn't fit our brand that we're trying to develop, right? So that's part of a big conversation that I get a lot. It's like we like the idea, but it doesn't fit what we're doing. Which I don't know if it's like corporate polite speak for like no, or if it's a genuine thought. I have some contacts at Raw Fury, and they were upfront with me. They're like, "Bro, I like the game. I don't have a window for you before you want to launch. There's no way I can fit you in with what we already have." And I was like, "That's fine. I can live with that, right?" But like, the worst part for me has been I've had a lot of publishers just straight up ghost us. Like, we start a conversation, dialogue's going great, they seem interested in the game. A big event happens like Gamescom or GDC, and all of a sudden I can't get a hold of them.
Yeah,
that's scummy, man.
It's well, I wouldn't say it's look, just my interpretation, not trying to invalidate anything here. I wouldn't call it scummy. I would say it's a little, if not disrespectful, a little disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Because you are owed the courtesy of a no. You are owed the courtesy of not being strung along, because that helps with your planning. And if you're both investing the time into this, then they should at least say, hey, we can't get back to you for another 6 months. It's a no for now, but let's check in 6 months. Or just like, hey, no, sorry, it's not going to work out. Even if that seems curt, to keep you hanging on. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't call it scummy, but I would say that they should do more. They should at least just say no.
I think that's most of their jobs is doing that communication. And if they're not doing that, in my opinion, I think that is kind of.
I just try to understand that it's fucking busy around the time of Gamescom, right? And all
for sure. But a lot of for a lot of people in those roles, that is their entire job. Like just not responding to like if you've started the dialogue, I think, and then just ghosting busy periods, I think that's like someone isn't doing their job correctly. If you're just not responding because you don't like the game pitch and you don't want to, like, say the publishers think they've got bigger fish to fry and they're like, this isn't worth our time. Not responding initially, that just happens.
Right, that's fine with me.
Mid dialogue, it just feels a bit much for me.
I'm just curious what kind of budget. I mean, you don't have to share, but like for an indie project,
sure.
what kind of budget?
So maybe give us a range if you're comfortable.
We've got 2 projects actually in the works. So the hip hop one, and then a much smaller project. It's like a management sim about overthrowing God and then trying not to get overthrown yourself.
Interesting.
That one's way further along, and
this is the one I've seen, right? You've sent this one.
I sent it to you. It's actually come a lot further since I sent it to you as well. But it's called What's a King to a God. We actually have a Steam page up.
Can we show it?
Yeah, please show the Steam page. People can wish list it. But we're only looking for about $300,000 on that one, which is enough to keep the team fed for a year, build out the game, and let the publisher handle the marketing and porting. So that's kind of the idea there.
Are you building in the marketing budget into it, or are you just sort of leaving it to them to decide what the marketing?
So I have $100,000 marketing budget additional if they don't do marketing, because I got quoted from several marketing firms. That's roughly what it would take to market a game of that size. And so I have like an optional like $300,000 plus an extra $100,000 if you don't do marketing, or you can take that off if you're doing the marketing yourself, kind of thing. And doing the same thing with Concrete Rose, which doesn't have a Steam page yet, but we're looking at that one's in the like 1 million range. It's a little higher. And I think for a mid-size RPG, that's very reasonable, considering like I can't remember what the budget for Sea of Stars was, but I remember it was quite high, surprisingly. But they recouped that, right? Like 250,000 units in their first month is insane. And I think if we focus on quality and making a very good game and a compelling story, people like RPGs. It's a popular genre. It's also a genre with not a lot of new entries into it that are of quality
and unique. Yours is.
You have a lot of Final Fantasies, a lot of I love Persona 5, but you have a lot of Persona games, and you have your stock standard 1.6 million from CSR 6 stars. There you go. So it's about the same budget as ours. That's kind of what we're looking for. But
you have, as we know, right? It could have been bigger. That was just Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I've was with their studio for a week making a documentary, and we spoke about budget stuff. I'm not sure how much I can say, but I don't want to break any stuff. But I think it was a bit more than that. Yeah. But that's because their team size was larger. Like, what kind of team size are you looking at now, and then what are you looking to grow up to?
We have 7 or 8 people right now, and we're looking to maybe get up to. I don't want to get past 20, really. Ideally for Concrete Rose, it'd be like 12 at the end of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I have a vague memory.
Outsourcing, right? Like if you needed art and stuff and localization.
I mean, honestly, our artist is. I cannot speak highly enough of her. She's fast. She's good. And she understands the project in a way that she's deeply invested in it. Her name is Isabella. She is one of the most. I'm almost hesitant to say her name because I feel like she gets scooped up. She's so talented, and I absolutely adore working with her. So, I want her. If we outsource anything, it'd be very small amount of work because she's very capable.
Yeah, which is great.
You speak highly of your team. Your passion's clear, and we appreciate you being as candid as you're being, man. We know that it's not something that's easy to do, and also we know it's like there's always a little bit of risk to it.
Yeah, I think it's also just very rare because not many people will talk about their projects, how they're trying to get it funded, and the detail of like what that's like. So that's very cool.
Happy to be.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, yeah.
It's difficult.
It's a tough thing to do,
man.
With you mentioned I speak highly of my team. I feel very lucky to work with the people I work with on these projects. Everyone's putting their effort in part-time, hoping that this turns into a full-time job for them. And that weight is not lost on me, right? Like I know I have a responsibility to these people to give them that, I'm giving them hope. Now I got to deliver on that hope, right? And so I work my ass off to have a product that we can put in front of a publisher to get the funds so that all these folks, the like super brilliant programmer from NVIDIA for like 10 years, right? And he's doing a lot of the code.
NVIDIA?
Yeah. He's a graphics programmer, also a good friend of mine.
No, I don't think people understand. When you name drop NVIDIA, do you know how crazy that is? Just so listeners understand, like, these guys can walk around the streets of San Francisco with just their hoodie, and like the world of women will throw themselves at them at like bars and restaurants because they are just walking bank accounts.
Yeah, and he's got money squared away. He's got money squared away, which is why he's able to help without like necessarily
with a passion
being
project like this. That is so cool.
And
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to ask another question that I think the listeners deserve to know. So it sounds like NVIDIA doesn't have some sort of restriction on employees just being creative.
No, he quit.
Oh, he quit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He quit his job, and now he's doing this on like until it becomes more stable.
Got it.
But he has, from working with NVIDIA, he's got like, he can take care of himself. Yeah, he's fine.
Dang. Okay.
So, I've got an old colleague of mine from grad school, and what's a king to a god? One person, all the code, that was him. Like, just knocked it out. Right. And then my producer, I would be lost without them. They keep me in line. They keep the gears turning. They're I don't want to put their like public life on blast, but like they have been doing entertainment for 10 years, and they came wanting to get into games.
Okay.
And the synergy was there, and it's just
right on.
It's been I have a wonderful team, and I think they all deserve the best, so I want to give that to them.
Hell yeah, dude. And you will. You're still on the journey, but you're gonna get there, man. And sorry to cut this off, but Tina,
I gotta go.
Piss off.
Yeah.
You got to go, girl. Get out of here.
It was a real pleasure.
It's like a very British thing to do, right?
Yeah, piss off is like just go away. Like just like
piss off in British is a form of love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
swearing
use
in
other
general
words
is a
in
British
loving
show
ways
of love.
too.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Sorry, I have to drop out early.
Tina.
I wish I could stay for the rest of this because this is a fascinating conversation. But thank you. It was nice meeting you.
It was a real pleasure. Take it easy.
Bye-bye. I dropped the game dev pitch.
All right, cool. We'll talk about that in a second, and you can relive that when you're back. See you later. Bye.
We'll just read some of the comments now. That's a good segue.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, I'll go through some of the comments. Bye.
What we got? What do we got?
Oh, the transition. I'll go through some of the comments, and then we'll go to the improv game pitch afterwards, which will be really cool. Yeah, we've got a couple donos we can go through. What we have is Lord Robertus III is given €2 to say happy belated B-Day to our producer Eric. The third, Eric, happy birthday.
Happy birthday again, Eric.
Happy birthday. I didn't even know.
It's also Omar's birthday, our lead media producer's birthday today. We had
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Omar.
Or was it was like Tina's birthday, then my birthday, then Jack Packard's birthday. then it was Eric's birthday, and now it's Omar's birthday. Most of us, what the hell is up with what's 9 months before December? Valentine's Day. There we go.
Roughly, give or take.
It's roughly
I
around
guess.
Valentine's.
Yeah. But also, people are cold, right? They're getting close in bed, and then they're impregnating each other.
Well, no, that would be summer. That would be the summer, right?
Wait,
that would imply that it has to be 9 months before December. That's when people are bunking.
But I thought you were just saying that Valentine's Day is when people are bunking.
Yeah. And 9 months later is November.
Yeah.
November,
so Valentine,
December.
February is pretty cold, right?
You're right.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's all.
It reminds me.
I live in California. It's not really cold ever. So.
It reminds me of the time that me and Mikee met for the first time at GDC last year in person, and we went out for like food somewhere, and we came outside, and I think I was wearing just this shirt.
Oh yeah.
And you were wearing like a winter jacket, and I remember you said, "Jay, do British people get like a +6 to cold resistance or something?" Because everyone was wearing winter coats.
When I was in Amsterdam, where it's very rainy most of the time and usually cold, I worked with a guy who was from Northern Ireland, and he was just like a fucking a slab of stone. He would just stand there in the cold with a t-shirt, and I've got like my bomber jacket on that's like this thick, and I'm like, "Oh man, aren't you cold, John?" And he's like, "I'm fine." It seems to be a racial bonus that the Brits have.
Yeah. Oh, Finns definitely have it too.
Finns, you say? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Do they have night vision too? Like, because it's so dark up there, right?
Oh my God,
that's a good one. Oh man, dark vision. I love that.
It just happens. It's a windy culture. We're used to those brisk winds, right? Like I just tend to like radiate heat as well. Like my body acclimatizes to whatever temperature it is really quickly. But I massively prefer the cold over the heat. Yeah.
Okay, Elsa, calm down.
I know, right?
Elsa? Wait, what's that? I don't get it.
Let it go, Jay. Frozen.
Oh, okay.
I like the cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got another dono from Snake in the Garden, €2. It says, Yuri, what's your favorite game genre to play?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yep.
Top. I have to get top two because I can't just pick one. I'm indecisive. I have ADHD.
Before you answer, this dono has 3 thumbs up, so think carefully.
All right.
There's a lot of people waiting on this.
No, I mean RPGs for start are there, right? Because Persona, Metaphor was my game of the year. Absolutely, game is
cool,
stellar. Astrobot winning, fair enough, but I love Metaphor. I also Chrono Trigger and all the classics and all those. But also fighting games. I have a soft spot for fighting games. In particular, I know this is very divisive among the fighting game community, but Super Smash Brothers. I told you it was going to come up.
You did. Why is it divisive? Could you give us context?
Well, it's not a traditional fighting game, right? It's not like it doesn't have a health bar, for example.
They're like, no, it's a brawler. It's not a fighting game.
But it gets played at Evo, so it counts to me. And I absolutely adore the fact that they took my favorite game, Persona 5, and then put that in Smash. And so I just main Joker all the time because it's really fun.
Yeah. Do you have a main, Mikey? Do you play Smash Bros at all?
Oh man. Back on the N64, I was playing Smash Bros. A good amount.
Who did you play? Who was your go-to?
I was pretty boring. I think I played a lot of Kirby, and if I remember right, Kirby was like decent. Kirby was fine. Boring. Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like I chose a guy who was like good and fine. Like it's a boring choice, and then I remember being a kid and going, "I want to play someone weird. I want to be Mario for no reason." So I started trying to get good at Mario, and I was not very good at Mario. It's
amazing.
My N64 man was Pikachu.
Okay, Pikachu could rock some faces. That's for sure. What about you, Jay?
I had an N64 back in the day, but I didn't own Smash Bros. Mainly because I wouldn't have had anyone to play it with, apart from my younger brother, but he wouldn't have played that. So I just never owned it. So I played a lot of the ones on DS, on the Wii, and the new one on the Switch. And in the new one, I main Richter because I love Castlevania.
Okay.
I just adore Castlevania, and he's busted. Like, if people don't really know how to play against him, he is a menace. And you know what the funny thing is? I have a small Smash Bros story. So I used to work in a school, and I ran like a board game club. It was basically every lunchtime I wouldn't take lunch. I would just run a club for all like the nerdy kids who didn't really have anywhere to go, because when I was a kid I would have loved that.
You weren't a student, you were working at the school, and you had a club.
I worked there. I taught special needs children in a mainstream school, and every lunchtime I would run a club, a board game club where kids would be able to come and play. They weren't really allowed to bring any consoles, but a lot of them would hide Switches in their bags, and I would turn a blind eye when they were playing their Switch games.
Hell yeah, cool teacher.
with the older kids, year 11, they're like 16. They're like in their last year of school. Right. They're a little bit more mature. So, like at the end of the day, while all the kids were going, home, like walking out of the school, a lot of the year 11s would come to my classroom and we'd put Smash Bros on the projector.
Nice.
And then for like 20 minutes, half an hour, they were waiting for their buses, right? To leave. We'd play a mini Smash Bros tournament every day, and I would be like the final boss. So I'm not like that good. I'm not claiming to be really good at Smash Bros. Not like our resident KC, who's insane. But they would fight and they would knock each other out until they got to me, and then I would defeat them every single time. And I would always play Richter. And so in my brain, whenever I think of Smash Bros, I think of like schooling 16-year-old children at Smash Bros.
It could be said, you could have said, and it could be said that you were, in a literal sense, taking those kids to school.
Quite literally, yeah. But I just wanted to like, if I had a teacher like that back in the day, like those would have been some of my fondest memories, and like, I wanted to do that for him, and it was just nice to win Smash Bros every day. So
it also felt good to be,
to beat up 16-year-olds.
Yeah, right. It felt real good. It felt real good.
I'm not even mad because I did the same thing to my niece once. I usually let her win because she was like 8. And then, one day she got kind of full of herself and she was like, "You suck, Theo." And I was like, "Well, now I got to put this child in the blender." That's the only response to that.
That was something one of the kids at the school said to me. They were like, because they're older, right? And when the younger ones would come to play, I would fight them and just like put them into the ground and just like destroy them. And one of the kids said, "Why don't you let the younger ones win? Like, why don't you let them win?" I was like, because that teaches them nothing, right? Like, if I let them win, that teaches them nothing. But as they grow up over the years and they get into like year 11 and then suddenly they beat me, that is going to be one of their like proudest moments. Like,
you are literally an anime villain now.
Yeah, 100%. My glasses used to like shimmer when they'd come into the classroom. But it's like, younger kids.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to ask if you. Sorry, you.
No, go for it. You.
Would you allow trash talking?
Yeah, 100%. Like,
it's an important part of the sport.
I was lapsed in my class. Like I said, like I'd turn a blind eye when they'd be playing, the Switch in the board game club and stuff like that. But we obviously had rules and regulations, and one of them was just like, obviously can't be mean and a dick to each other and like swear and stuff. It was a Christian school, so like, I'm not Christian, but like I work there and we have rules to follow. So the trash talking had to be
PG,
not
personal,
PG. Right, and really rude. But there'd be hooting and hollering on like, "Oh, you're getting schooled," and like, "Oh, you suck," and stuff like that. And you let it happen. It's all good.
Did you have the movie moment where like the principal was stomping down the hall, which I'm imagining like a Pink Floyd depiction of a principal, and you all have to cover everything and hide everything, and then they come in and
I was a weird one in that school. I was really good friends with the vice principal, and she was amazing and kind of took me under my wing when I started working there. So I was in with the higher ups. But one of the things is I was in there in my first term, and I taught special needs children, and the kitty.
Oh, yeah,
kitty.
This is Suki.
Hello. Sorry, I see cat, and I my brain broke. So yeah, I taught special needs children. The person before me had like, you have to acclimatize them and get them back into the mainstream of like bringing them up to a normal level. Like I taught the lowest ages, like 11 to 12. And they had like a 40% success rate on getting kids back into the system. And I took over the job, and I taught very unconventionally. We had an hour slot with me, like a lesson, and I would teach for half an hour. And then for the final half an hour, we'd just play games. Like, we'd play board games, and we'd use that as and they'd all be education based, but we would always have our game time. And I remember a maths teacher coming to me and being like, the way you are teaching these children is going to fail. This is wrong. You should be teaching them conventionally. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. And bear in mind, the children I'm teaching,
movie villain shit.
Yeah, he was an teacher. And you got to remember that the kids I'm teaching or are put into my charge here are kids that have severe dyslexia, autism, anger management issues that will, if they're not getting on with things, start like hurting themselves or attempting to hurt you. Like it was in severe cases, right? So you have to look at it in different ways. But anyway, I would do a lot of it through play and teaching. I'm from I just finished studying game dev, so I wanted to do it through play. And then in my first term, the success rate went from the previous 45% to 75%. And it went up because the kids wanted to be in the classroom and wanted to be around, right? So after that, everyone kind of just left me alone and just let me do what I was doing. So my classroom became very fun. Like, the kids wanted to be there. So when the principal would come past and see kids just having a good time, he didn't care because he knew I was getting the results in the back end as well.
It's hard to argue with objective results, and that's a big ass jump, dude.
Yeah, and I was only there for 2.5 years, but it was super rewarding. Because as someone who has dyslexia and struggled in school because of the mainstream system, being able to facilitate and making those kids want to be part of that system and gain that confidence back, it was super, super rewarding. I have some, obviously, anyone who's worked in education will have some horror stories and the stuff they've seen, because unfortunately a lot of stuff happens with kids. But super rewarding. And I got to play Smash Bros, right? So it's a win-win. Mikey, what's your favorite genre? I think I know the answer, but
yeah, it would probably be FPS. It's so much like Jarory. I guess I didn't get a chance before the stream to tell you my background, but I worked on Black Mesa. I worked on the Insurgency series. I was lead game designer on Insurgency Sandstorm. I worked in VR. I worked on a couple projects. But what I could talk about is Onward, which is a VR military shooter. And I worked on SCP-5K. I've worked on a lot of shooters. I've contributed a lot to shooters for most of my career. And I would say that's probably my favorite. It's not like it's my only thing, but if I had to pick, that would have to be the one. Even if you just go by raw count.
Yeah.
Specifically, I like tactical shooters, but it's not limited to that. I'll play a lot of different ones. Lately, I guess I've been more into a lot of co-op games, like co-op shooters specifically, and that's also just been a big part of my, I guess, a gamer identity too. I put over 500 hours into the original Killing Floor because I loved it so damn much.
Wow.
And you got to play that game with friendly fire, though. I do whenever I'm playing, even if it's not a tactical shooter, I like to have it be a little bit on the hardcore side, or a lot on the hardcore side. That's generally my thing. I think as a designer and also just as a player, pacing is kind of everything, right? I need to have high highs and low lows. Otherwise, you get a little bored and you're never going to enter a flow. So
you don't want to play shooters with me with friendly fire on, because you will die a lot.
I enjoy the risk.
Not intentionally, mind you. I just don't know how to aim.
and that would be okay, because I feel like people are kind of learning that that's fine, right? Look at Helldivers 2 and all the compilations people have. It's fun. Your friends kill you, you laugh, you get mad, maybe you get a little too mad, and you draw it back, and then you have fun, and then it's fine. But I'm happy to see games like that are popularizing the idea of hardcore mechanics in co-op games. I'm playing a lot of Halo lately, and the game changes completely when you play with friendly. Well, I think friendly fire is always on. I'm not sure, but it's reduced. But I was actually going to say, if you play on Legendary and you put this is Master Chief Collection, so the skulls are easy access. And you put on the skull, and the skull is like a mutator, which might be a little too unreally of me to say, a skull changes the game for people who are listening, where instead of like normally in Halo when you die, you run away and you find someplace safe away from the enemies and your teammate spawns, right? That's fine, but it's a little too easy. You play on Legendary and you put the skull on where if one of the four of you or one of the two of you dies and you just go back to the last checkpoint, the stakes go up and it's way more fun. Like it made a huge difference for me. It was like a little mini Halo revival in my life. I was telling Jay about it. Because I played Halo a ton, obviously, but that was really truly special, and it's made me like fall back in love with Halo. It's awesome,
and a beautiful example of how you frame the same mechanics and systems in a different way, in a different intensity, can completely change the feel and the pacing of that experience.
Yeah, at its core, like thinking like designers, it's why we have difficulties, right?
Yeah,
like at the core, so you can kind of bracket players and be like, yeah, we know that this is good pacing for you, and this is good pacing for you. And hey, look, now the new thing that we're doing, which I think is good, is people who are like, I just don't have the dexterity or I just don't know the genre. Just let me experience this. Okay, fine. Here's the difficulty for you. Now that's the pace you want. It's great. It's like a good evolution of design.
For sure. On the different end of that spectrum, though, it's also why something like FromSoft doesn't have difficulty systems, because they're trying to pinpoint that exact experience that they want people to have. And there's value in both, in my opinion. I mean,
FromSoft does have an easy mode. It's called the Pyromancer.
Yeah, true.
Pyromancer.
Or like in Elden Ring, just a mage. But this is bullshit. It's the easy mode. Mikey, what's your game of the year? What's been your favorite game this year? It doesn't have to be from this year. What's just been your favorite game?
I gotta think about that, man. I gotta look at the list. Can we come back to that? I want to ponder that. Yeah.
Yeah, Jarory,
I have an answer for you, but I want to challenge my own answer. Go ahead.
It was Metaphor followed by Balatro, because the amount of time I've lost to Balatro is ungodly. It came out on mobile, which was just unfair.
Dude, it really is. When I was coming to the States, I had to get the bus. I usually drive, so it was the first time I've had to do that. It's like a 4-hour drive.
Stop?
No, I got on the bus and I just got Balatro on mobile, and I looked at the time and I was like, okay, well, it's going to be 4 hours. I looked down and then I looked back up and we were there, and I was like, oh my god,
that's me, dude. That's me and Slay the Spire on a plane.
There we go.
It's wild. It's so wild. Like, what a game. What an absolutely amazing game. I think to give Mikey some time to think, I've got mine. My game of the year came out on my birthday, like a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
It's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Oh, yeah.
I love that game. That game is a lesson in consistency and just... specifically there, we saw it in a clip, the Vatican level, I genuinely think might be the pinnacle of level design. Like, it is the new bar. Like, everything it does is spot on. Like, so much so that the first video of the new year for Design Delve is going to be like a half an hour, 40-minute long breakdown. I've requested extra time to make sure that I uncover every single stone in the Vatican, because I think it's unbelievable. If you guys want even if you don't like Indiana Jones and you want a really good, consistent, great narrative experience with some really clever puzzles and punchy combat, play that game. I'm
planning on it. I won't watch the Design Delve video until I finish the game, though, because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, experience the Vatican. Like, it really blew me away. It blew me away.
I think for me, it would probably have to... I have to limit it a little bit, so I'll limit it to games that technically had their full release in 2024, and I got to give it to Sons of the Forest. I love survival games. I'm occasionally re-addicted to 7 Days to Die. Green Hell was great. I like Minecraft. Like, I've played a ton of different survival games, and Sons of the Forest was, for one, an excellent evolution of the forest. And it was a kind of a little bit, we're talking about the military shit, a little bit of a paramilitary kiss to the aesthetic that I liked. They added guns. They added the combat got a little deeper. It was still very scary and spooky. It's I love that game so much, and I really like co-op survival in particular. And I had a really good time playing that. I would say that has to be it. And that came out late February in 2024, which is when we established everybody was getting busy. I was playing Sons of the Forest.
Back in college, when the original Forest came out, I remember my friend calls me over and says, "Hey, let's play this game together." I was like, "Sure." So I go over to his house. I bring my laptop. He has his on his laptop going, and we're like playing it together. And we get into like the spooky parts, right? Like the really scary
and it gets
parts.
spooky, dude. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we hear like at the window, like someone knocking on the window, and both of us like jump, start hugging each other.
Like a cartoon.
It's like a cartoon. You couldn't have scripted that better.
Those caves in the Forest 1 in particular are so damn scary. It's terrifying, dude. I would open it up and you turn on your light and you look out and you go, "No, never mind. I'll go tomorrow." Like I'll go in half an hour, which is one in-game day or whatever. I don't have enough light for this.
God, it's so cool. So unique. Oh, dude, I love the look of that. Right, time frame wise, I got really scared that there was going to be another stream starting in 15 minutes, but apparently it's not. It's an hour and 15, so we got a bit of time. We got a couple more donos, more donos, and then we can try and do game pitch. So Dark Jackal gives $10. It says, "Hey, loving the conversation as always. I had a thought when you were talking about Jarory's DJRPG. Y'all, what do you think are the weirdest combinations of elements you've ever seen in a game?"
Ooh, interesting.
Weirdest combination of elements, like mechanical or like genre mashups.
I'm not sure. I'm getting like almost like a thematic elements mashing up with mechanics and how those things come together. I have one that comes to mind right away. Virgo versus the Zodiac.
What is that?
I gotta look that up.
It is an indie title, also a turn-based RPG, but it borrows heavily from astrology to influence its mechanics as well. And like, I have a lot of like witchy friends who are into astrology, and apparently this game does a really good job of understanding the like deep levels of astrology, which I didn't even know were a thing.
And smashing it in with its mechanics.
Yeah, and then you kind of like take these like all these weird like sun lines and moons and things, and they all like combine to actually influence how the game works. And of course, then you characterize the different zodiac symbols. So like Gemini is kind of two-faced and things like that, right? So like it's on the surface level, it does some fun things, but then also on the deeper mechanical level, if you're apparently an astrology fan, this game is like the game to play.
It's for you. Damn, okay. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Also gives you, like, narratively, if you understand that kind of mind frame, you can peer into what a character could potentially be like, and then seeing that unfold is kind of satisfying, right? Because
I imagine,
it's kind of like you have a hunch. It's interesting. I guess the one for me is one that I don't play myself, because it's not really for me, but it is the weirdest mashup, is probably... what's it called? Pal World, that Pokemon with guns.
Oh yeah,
game.
Pew Pew Pokemon.
Like it is literally just, hey, let's take everything that people like and mash it into one. Which is wild. It's not really for me because the joke of I'm shooting Pokemon kind of wears thin for me quickly, so it's just not the experience for me. But it's got like quite intense base building. It's got the Pokemon combat. It's got gunplay. It's got like survival elements. It is a mashup of just people like this. Let's make a thing that does all of them. And sometimes that succeeds, and sometimes that fails. And in this case, it succeeded for a lot of people, which is interesting, to say the least.
It's been an interesting year, hasn't it? As far as releases go, because that was January, right?
No way.
Hold on. Wait. Pal World release date. I'm pretty sure
January 19th, 2024.
2024.
Wow, it's been a long year.
Still in this year.
Yeah. But I think hold on. No, yeah, it was. Yeah. And when did Helldivers 2 come out? Because I feel like
that was this year. Yeah, that was definitely this year.
That was February. Yeah, so not a bad year for gaming, dude. A lot of really big hits.
There have been some
that went viral for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Mikey, can you think of anything like a weird mashup that you've seen?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. When I ask these questions, I look at my Steam list and I just scroll, and I can't think of anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I
No,
enjoyed the. This was not like an original mashup, I guess, because you could easily say it was taken from like I think it was Gary's mod mode. But Phasmophobia was a cool mashup. The theme of hunting ghosts and expressing that in gameplay through, okay, here are all your different devices. Here's this process of elimination. Is it the Ure? Is it so and so? No, it's not. Oh, let's try this. That to me was a nice blend of, oh, you're engaging with the theme very well, and you're also making the mechanics fun, and it's also very fun to watch, and it's playing co-op in a way that, like I talk how much about I love FPS, right? I love hardcore games. I really like teamwork-oriented games too. Hence why I like survival games. Phasmo is a game that encourages a lot of talking and communication, and also like player learning, where like I'm teaching my friend to play the game. That's a really special thing, and I think because you had a good mashup of that, if we are to say it's about theme and mechanics, that mashup's good. But if the person was asking about like a mechanical mashup that was interesting, I'm coming up blank, at least for now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. They're rare. They're extremely rare. Oh, final dono before we move into the pitch. We got Fungus Finder with the $5. It says, to reference the stream title, did you read a lot of extended universe Star Wars books back in the day?
Oh yeah. My favorite is the Jedi Academy trilogy by Kevin J. Anderson. It introduced my favorite character, Kip Duron, who gets possessed by the ghost of an ex-Sith Lord, and with that power severs Luke's soul from his body.
Oh no.
That actually happened. Oh yeah.
That's wild, dude.
Was this all the stuff that was made non-canon at some point?
Yeah. It's all the
okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't remember that part.
No, this was in the books. I think it's in the second book. In the second book where it happens.
Right.
Luke
I don't remember that
had
happened to Luke. But
yeah,
you're saying there was a canon reset. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he like spends the first book looking for apprentices to rebuild the Jedi Order. Second book, he start training them, and then
this takes place after Jedi.
Yeah, it's after Jedi. It's also after the Timothy Zahn trilogy, which is the one with what is his name? I can't. Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Oh fuck!
Don't know that one.
Okay.
He was in Star Wars Rebels as well as a villain.
He's the blue dude.
The blue dude.
Blue man.
Yeah, blue man.
My favorite Star Wars, predictably, was Star Wars Republic Commando.
Oh, that's a good one.
That shit was badass.
That was dope.
And
if we're including games, it's got to be Knights of the Republic for me then. But yes.
Okay.
Fair.
Yeah.
Completely fair. I liked how in Republic Commando, it wasn't just about like, it's being a little more militarized. I like how they sort of streamlined tactical gameplay, where they're like, just tell your guys to go there or there or there, and it'll be sniper, grenade launcher, or just normal rifle. And I liked how that it wasn't like super mega complex, but I like how it added a little bit of depth to what would have otherwise just been a corridor shooter, right?
Yeah, and for its time, that was pretty revolutionary. Like that was a huge thing.
Yeah, because it was either that or Ghost Recon, where you're just like talking about pacing. It's extremely slow. Like, take a look at Call of Duty today and look at the original Ghost Recon. It's like completely a spectrum apart. And, people don't always want that, especially on consoles, was the thinking at the time. So like, let's give people a little bit of tactical gameplay, but not go too crazy. And that was Republic Commando. So it wasn't just leaning on being a Star Wars game, which is also what I liked about it. It wasn't just like, here's the IP, now go have fun. It was like, we'll take the IP and we'll do something fun that fits.
I really like the multiplayer of the OG PS2 Battlefront.
Yeah.
Right.
That is
like playing that was just so special. Like it felt so new and fresh to me when I was younger. Like getting to actually play as playing a lot as like ground units, and then getting to like build up to playing a Jedi or a Sith just like felt so good. And like the new Battlefront 2 and the Battlefront games attempted to like lean into that. I just don't think they did it hard enough.
Did you?
I think they, yeah.
Sorry, the space combat was great in that too.
Did you guys see apparently, I'm looking it up now, Battlefront 3 footage leaked within the last couple of days?
Oh, really?
No way.
I'm trying to find it now, yeah. Anybody in the chat, did you guys see that? I'm Googling.
Oh, there it is. Eric's got it. That's Battlefront 2.
Oh, is that too? Okay.
Battlefront 3... Okay, so I'm assuming it won't have the loot box controversy.
No, I think this is old Battlefront 3.
Oh, remastered. Like actual old Battlefront 3. That's not like EA doing
sure.
Battlefront 3.
Actually, no, I'm not sure. I'm looking now.
Oh, that makes me sad.
For
Why
the
didn't they do a Wii Battlefront? Yeah. Damn.
Okay.
Yeah, Battlefront was a fun title, especially the Galactic Conquest mode. I really like that a lot.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, Eric's posted it. There's Wii gameplay of it. Damn.
Nice.
Old Ben. Oh, look at it. Oh, I love it. For listeners, we're currently sat here watching some
just nostalgia.
For those who are listening.
All right.
What's the next question? Sorry.
The next question was from the same dono, which is just on the tail end, which is how do you prepare for a flavor of writing? And I guess that extends into like how do you, just like you were talking about with your boss barks and stuff like that, how do you keep things thematic? And also, like, I'm fascinated by timing. How do you time things correctly? And like in Indiana Jones, for example, all of the interactions between Indy and Gina, who's the female companion in that game, their dialogue feels so natural as it flows together as they're talking. But timing those things, as I know, is incredibly difficult. Like, how do you get that to feel right?
All right. Well, for the flavor, that's an easy question. I just consume a bunch of media that is similar, adjacent, or in the same universe, right? Like, I read all the books, I watch the movies, I play the games. I understand why people like this and like break it down. So, like, for my first game, it was called Scamp Hi-Hat Havoc. This is the one we released coming out of grad school. Our primary character was supposed to be modeled after Rocket Raccoon. So we watched the first two Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen the original Guardian of the Galaxy like 5 times in the process of developing this game. Because I was just studying Rocket's dialogue. Like, how does he speak? When does he speak? Why does he speak? Right? And so that once I understood that, I could easily just like, he would say this here, right? So like understanding what the character would say and when. Reference characters are a really great thing to have when making your own characters. So you're like, okay, this character sort of talks or speaks like this character or for the same reasons as this character. And then you can start adding your own flavor on top. Synthesis is probably easier than pure creation when it comes to these kind of things. If you're pulling a character out of a void, base it off someone you know at least. How they talk, that's the best way I can achieve the flavor results. Timing. So computers are really bad at this, surprisingly. We on Jedi, we had a tool where we had to go in and for every line of dialogue, every single one of them. We broke this up across the entire team. I think there were 12 of us, and it was still like 1,000 lines a person or something crazy like that.
Yikes.
And we would go through and scrub through each line and put the delays in manually for like where the breath should be at the end and trim the last bit of
oh my god,
trailing so that it flows naturally into the next line. And like, it was intense, and it was the least favorite part of the job for everyone, which is why we broke it up evenly across the team. Even the leads had to do it. It was tedious and it was nuts. I heard the same line more times than I can remember. There's a fun anecdote about that. When we were developing, we had the placeholder VO. We got the people on the team to do the VO before we got the actual voice actors in the booth. And I remember I hadn't heard one of the characters in the beginning. I hadn't heard her actual voice actress speak yet. So by the time we got to this point, I heard the line. I was like, wait, this isn't the right voice.
This is wrong.
Who is a stranger in my home?
Are you saying that as far as the editing goes, or like the treatment of every line, were you trying to remove like a lip smack at the end, or remove a breath at the end, or
exactly.
What do you mean by? Okay, got you.
Yeah, removing the obviously the audio engineers did most of that they could. We were adding like more like pauses and delays and or reducing them so that because we had a default pause time that's like 0.5 seconds or something like that. But not every line would flow naturally into the next line with that delay. So sometimes you need a longer delay. Pacing stuff. Yeah.
You're creating consistency. I'm surprised that the entire team split that up. I feel like the audio team would be like, no, let us touch it because we know the timing best.
No, but they actually don't, because they don't know how the conversations are supposed to like they know the booth, but like in terms of in engine, we needed to do that. Right? Because it could sound one way in the booth, but once you put it in the computer and it like has its own delay triggers and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Those timings needed to be adjusted manually because it could sound perfect between two actors, but the minute it's interpolated through a machine, now you have weird artifacts and timings that have to. Then that's what we were doing.
Too much of a pause, it might not make the same reference within the context of gameplay.
Exactly, or not enough of a pause.
Yeah. You might need more, right? And I can see why you split it up, but I think commend the team for splitting that up between all of the devs.
I understand what you're saying now, and I feel you, man. I can empathize because I did that by myself for hundreds of lines, thousands of lines across multiple projects. Day of Infamy, Insurgency Sandstorm. I remember doing it for so long on Day of Infamy that I had this weird, almost psychedelic thought of like, I feel like I've heard these people speak so many times that they could be real people. And I had that thought, and I thought, what does that mean? What did I mean by that thought? And then I had to like backtrack and take a break because I was just hours.
I've got to go get a coffee.
It was so many lines. We wrote so many lines for all of our games, really. And well, I wrote most of them, and it was just crazy. And it's kind of like you're saying, this effect of like, I'm so close to this, I start thinking weird shit, or I start like not being able to view it as it's supposed to be. And it was just crazy.
It's crazy.
It's a lot of work.
Into art like that. It's like those lines get blurred, and you do need to take a step back and have someone look at it that isn't that entrenched, and just be like, "Please tell me what you think about this." You just want an answer. You just want someone to say, "Yeah, it's good" or "It's bad," right? So you.
I have no cognitive way of knowing if this is working or not. I need you to tell me, please. To whoever else is
God,
there.
Tell me. Tell me. My God. Okay. I just want to check with you two. Do you guys need to be somewhere? Because we've just run over the 2-hour mark. Like, we can do an improv game pitch, but if you need to be somewhere, Mikey,
I'm good. I'm just confirming my schedule. I'm pretty good. I have a meeting soon, but I'm good. So let's do it.
Let's do a quick improv game pitch, and then we'll
15,
we'll
20.
Up.
Target that maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So Eric, I'm not sure if you've got an image, but Tina did. Put something in. So, Jarory, we do improv game pitches where we take a small prompt and then we just start trying to come up with a cool game idea.
Let's go.
We may or may not. No, don't use that. Don't use the emo pictures.
Oh,
Eric.
no.
That's not what Tina is putting.
Wait, so Jay, you're saying don't use pictures of you as an adolescent, as an emo kid, as part of the game pitch.
Do not do. We'll do that in the future for a big special event. Tina has given us something that is nothing to do with me as an emo
as
child.
much as I'd like to razz you, and
I was really hoping to make Life is Strange again.
You have to.
No, Eric.
Life is Strange with a little British boy.
From where you got them.
Shit!
No more. Okay. Tina's prompt is recreating the magic of receiving games and then playing them.
Ooh.
So. A game that is recreating the magic of receiving games. Now, this is a tough one because this is a feeling. Do you guys have any fond memories of like receiving games? I have a couple. I have 2 that are very fond for me.
I have a clarifying question before this. The wording here is receiving the game. So, the and also playing them, or is it just the receiving action that we care about here?
Yeah, it says the first is receiving, and then she adds, and then playing them, which is the tricky part for me.
Interesting.
Because then that's just like what UFO 50. You just unlock games because for me it's the magic of receiving the thing that maybe you weren't expecting or that you've been waiting for, right?
Let's assume that she
meant
recapturing the magic of what you felt when playing. It doesn't need to be and then you play them and abstract playing a game as a game.
Well, I think
she just means
that image in the bottom, like getting that Nintendo 64 for Christmas, I think that's what we're going with. Right,
sure,
is like that Christmas feeling.
Let's consolidate a bit. It's the magic of receiving games and playing. Yeah,
it's a gacha game.
It's got to be a gacha game. It's
a gacha game where you effectively roll loot boxes to open presents. And,
oh no, I don't know if I like that.
You can get the big pull is the N64, but you know the mid roll pull is maybe like Mario on the Game Boy. And
like a virtual console, a virtual console, and you like almost like the Switch virtual console shop, but instead of having access to them, you spin a gacha, and that's what you get.
God,
that's what you get for that.
You get to roll the gacha and you unwrap games, and then you get to effectively emulate them.
Yeah,
that's cool. Okay, so you get to relive that memory of opening, and also, oh, that's nice. I
think our setting. We have to determine our target audience here, and I think what's coming up naturally because of our age group and our familiarity is this feels like it's a game that should take place in the late 90s or early 2000s or something.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I'm gonna throw one more mechanic out there.
All right.
Okay.
You can gift your games to your friends so they can play it.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. And you can trade. I like that. Yeah, so like if you get, and maybe you can only gacha once a day or something. Or like once a week, so you get a game. Maybe you don't like it, but like you can share with friends. And now
you've received a gift from Jarory, and it's like I can unwrap it.
That's the feeling that we're chasing.
Oh, I like that. And also like mechanically, the actual unwrapping isn't a button click. I want there to be ripping mechanics. You have to like pull tabs off. Because I have a very particular way that I like to unwrap presents. Like some people like to just rip them. I don't. I like to meticulously open them. I don't know. It's like a little ritual I do. I just like it.
Yeah. Is it because you're British?
Maybe. No, I think it's because
Is this a British stereotype? Of
maybe. It's the same as just not being cold, right?
It's just not making a fuss here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to cause any bother.
I don't want to cause any bother. I'll gently unwrap this.
I love the idea of like being able to unwrap it in a way you like. Be that just like aggressively, it's like kind of like scratch cards or something like that. You can kind of unwrap it how you want. I love the
game needs to be on the DS, by the way. So we can point to a stylus and unwrap it.
Or mobile, right? You can do it with the Switch or mobile.
No, you're right. You're right. We could do it on Switch, but don't you feel like people would? I feel like we need to require them to do it if we do it. They have to rub it
for sure.
But then they can't do it if they're playing on the TV, so that doesn't work. Never mind. Sorry.
Mobile makes the most sense for this then.
Mobile does it, yeah.
Okay, mobile. It's a mobile game. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the receiving and gifting and playing. It'd be difficult to get all these games if it wasn't licensed, right?
If you emulate the 80s era, kind of like your own version of Donkey Kong, for example, right? Like, the older games or like Pong or Galaga, right? Like the older, you do like a spin off of these games that are flavorfully the same, but
So, I got the gold copy of Bonky Kong.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Yeah.
Bonky Kong. Who knows? That could be anything, Nintendo. What do you mean you're trying to sue us? No, I like that. That fits with the era. I'm thinking, I'm applying a little bit of a marketer brain here.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to think about our audience, and they will laugh and smile if they see Bonky Kong because it's a game about the late 90s, early 2000s. Think of all the PlayStation 2 games, that huge catalog in the early 2000s, and all the parodies we can have there. Not Killzone, but rather Death Area. I don't know.
Death Area.
Fine, not guerrilla games, but conventional, regular military games.
Forebodance of the Giant. It's like Shadow of the Colossus. Forebodance of the Giant. You could have.
That's so good.
What about Fuck no. I've got one. I just can't think.
Metal Gear, very gaseous.
Metal Gear gaseous. Or very gaseous. That's hilarious.
Oh my god, I'm trying to think.
While you think,
no.
Jarory, there wasn't a gaseous snake, was there? In Metal Gear Solid. I think there's only a liquid and a solid. Could the chat help me out here, please? There was no gaseous snake.
Gaseous snake.
I don't think.
But listen, fill the room.
Fill the room. Gas. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say, Jay?
I'm still thinking of some.
Are you still thinking? Okay. Other PS2. Now I just want to think of PS2 parody names.
Smash Raccoon.
Smash Raccoon.
Wait,
Crash
Smash
Bandicoot.
Raccoon?
Smash Raccoon.
Oh, thank you. Smash Raccoon. The character is actually very similar.
Yeah.
That's good.
What was some PS2 classic? Okay, hold on.
I was in a PS2 household. We were a Nintendo 64 household. So
Me too.
You can do N64 ones. You can do
Star Furry Critter.
Wait,
you can do guitar and harmonica.
No, wait, not Anthony Eagles Pro Bicycling.
Your average guy as a skater, just
You're
not a pro skater game.
Not a pro skater.
Average skater.
Perfectly normal, adequate skater.
Wait.
You can't. It's not very fun to play. You can't do many moves. You're just. Okay.
I've got one. It's Biddy Conk Racing, the son of Bonky Conk. Biddy
Oh,
Conk
if only
Racing.
Tina were here, she would love that.
She would. Yeah. We both have a love for Biddy Conk Racing.
Anyway, enjoy the lawsuits to follow from this conversation.
Oh shit!
Yeah, but we'd make so much money off the gacha. Actually, no, we're not charging. It's daily. You get them for free.
There's some good ones in the chat here. Hold on, I want to see these. Gotcha Snake, Metal of Valor. So just like a slab of iron.
Courageous metal.
Smash Randicoot.
Smash Randicoot. Watamari Glossary. Someone says they wish they were doodling these in real time. That would be hilarious. Yeah, we need a team immediate artist.
What about fucking back pocket creatures?
Just pocket creatures.
Pokemon?
Yeah.
That's good. Bug hunting, but with furry monsters.
Jess says faction fights 2. There is no faction fights 1. It's like
I don't get that one.
Sim.
What's faction fights?
What is faction fights, Jess? Oh, it's Guild Wars. It's Guild Wars 2, but faction fights 2.
Faction fights.
What about World of Warcraft? Planet of Battles.
Wow, that was fast.
That sounds
a
like
real game.
Fortnite.
That looks like a
fight.
game mode in Fortnite. We're talking about a fucking.
Are we talking about a real game mode?
I think we have lost this thread so
yeah,
far.
We're definitely in deep. Alive by Midnight. Wait, what's that of?
Dead by Daylight.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Yeah.
What about phone chat of requirement? It's Call of Duty. Phone chat of requirement.
Oh man, that took me way too long to get it.
Because how do you just what's a call? What would you call cool?
Summon.
I deserve that boo. 1,000%.
Oh man.
Instead of Grand Theft Auto, I don't know, Grand Tax Fraud,
Petty larceny.
Petty larceny. Thank you.
There you go.
That's better.
Just comes in with another one. Alive by Midnight.
Oh, that's
Dead
what I was
by
saying.
Daylight.
Yeah. I didn't get it at
of
first.
Woodcraft. Contact of requirement. Oh god, we're getting too deep.
Oh, yeah,
I like this game.
Yeah, this is fun.
I like this game.
The game is.
We should make this. Yeah.
We clearly need some element of UGC, right? Of like players being able to make their own parody games and like sell them on the marketplace or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Actually,
all you need is an art. Here, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think that could be like in the gotchas, right? So like, if they get like enough like community upvotes or whatever, they become a game that people can just acquire that
what
way.
You get is one of the pulls is a publishing deal, and that gives you the ability to make one yourself and try and get it published.
That's good. Now we're drinking Game Dev Simulator.
Yeah. I love that. And you're like, wait, I can't make a game, but I know my friend would really like this, and somebody gifts you a publishing deal.
Can that happen to me in real life, please? I would love some good old fashioned
Let's make this
right
game
now.
and then get your games funded through this game.
Yeah.
To fund games, we make games, right? That's how it works.
I'm sorry. Moon Moisture Canyon.
What the fuck is Moon Moisture
Stardew Valley?
No,
I'm assuming
I don't know what the
Stardew Valley
is, but it's in
Moon Moisture Canyon, Jay.
Oh my god, it's Stardew Valley. Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's Stardew Valley, Moon Moisture Canyon. She says she's sorry. That's absolutely horrific.
There's nothing to apologize for. That's great.
No, I don't think there's anywhere but down from here.
Yeah, I think we're at the bottom of the barrel.
We're in the canyon right now. We're in the Moon Moisture Canyon. This is
the gorge.
This is not good. This is a bad. Oh my god! For fuck's sake! All right. Well,
this was a great time. I loved it.
I love this concept. I think, as always, when we do these, the ones that don't go horrifically violent, I'm like, I could see this being a thing. I could see this being a thing.
Most of ours are violent games. That's true. So look how much we've grown.
I know. Look how much
You're
we grow when we
welcome.
don't have Tina here.
Oh, thank you.
When there's no Tina, the violence stops. Let that be known.
I think.
Well, I mean, she was saying that it's like working on a shooter gets you there.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
It puts you in an interesting mindset.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, I'm happy with the concept. We're coming into quarter past at the moment, so I think as much as I would absolutely adore to just sit down and keep chatting, shooting the shit, quite literally. You're not seeing Emoji Mate. That's not what you're getting. Chat, drop it. You'll get it one day. It's not today.
Another day.
Special occasion.
Another day.
I can hope and dream.
Yeah, right. keep your eyes peeled. One day. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up. So on my end, a Design Delve came out this week, and there's another one coming next week. And we're doing the Dev Heads right now. Check out all the wonderful episodes we got of Dev Heads. Lots of different things happening. We're taking a little bit of a Christmassy break, but I believe we're back in the new year, Mikey, with an episode of with me and you and a guest, or did we decide to not do that one?
We which day are you talking about? I'll be a little cryptic here because we don't want to give it away. Which day do you mean? I'm checking.
Potentially, are we doing one on the 3rd?
Yes. And Tina will not be here, right? Because I think
Tina won't be here.
Correct. Oh, our show on the 3rd's good. Yeah, we got some good shit coming for you guys, even just the next couple months. Ooh, I like every one of these. I'm looking at the list now.
It's a good list.
Good.
Stay tuned, guys.
You have an emo filter on. I'd like to alert you in case you want to change your behavior.
If I draw attention to it, it's going to get worse. Oh my god, you put a fucking collar on me?
Oh no.
That collar thinks my chin. It's attached to my chin. What the fuck?
It is attached to your chin.
Eric has too much power.
Let's get it on the neck.
Oh, okay, that one's better. Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
I can now at least envision it.
I know I'm pale, but it's made like my cheeks and forehead go like the same shade.
Jay, this is making me a little sick because it makes you look like way too inhuman. You look like a monster. You don't look like an emo kid.
I was already one step away from being too inhuman. So we've really done it. So we're on holiday break. But there's still going to be like second wind, but we're going to be on Dev Heads is still going to be on for that week. Yes. So stay tuned, stick around. We're going to have some very interesting guests in the new year. Mikey, do you have anything? Seeing me normal is just weird now. I feel weird seeing me without the pillow. Mikey, do you have anything you would like to plug or say before you go away?
I usually don't, but I'm realizing, I think it would be something. I think I brought it up like way early in the show. I do contracting and consulting. I would love to help you with your game, whether it's indie AA or AAA. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm dev_Mikey on the on Instagram or Twitter, Twitter preferred, or check out my website tsarconsulting.com, and feel free to reach out. I would love to help you with your project. I think I'll plug myself this time for that. Maybe I'll do that more often.
You should plug yourself every episode, man. That's there's nothing wrong with plugging yourself. And speaking of plugging yourself, that sounded weird. Jory.
Right up there.
You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Blue Sky, Jarory. Please forgive the emo pun there. You can follow our studio, Coquito Games, as well. We have a website. We have Blue Sky. We're on LinkedIn, all that. Do go wishlist what's a king to a god. The more wishes we have, the easier it'll be to get people to give us money, so that we can finish the damn thing.
That's
and keep an eye out for Concrete Rose. Like I said, that game's gonna come out, and when it does, I'm gonna be breathing airs of relief that it's done. I love this project, but I want other people to love it as much as I do. So.
Yeah. And if you do, guys, if you like the look of these games, like Mikey was saying, wishlisting is very important. Showing your support. It doesn't always have to immediately be monetary. Wishlisting does have a huge impact.
Publishers,
especially when approaching publishers. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt, Jay. Continue.
No, you're completely right. It's publishers do look at those things, and for you, it's a button click. But it can drastically help out devs more than you know. And it doesn't harm you. It just tells you when games are going to be coming out or if they're on sale. It doesn't matter if you have the money or not right now. It just keeps you in the loop and it helps the devs out. So do not neglect the power of your wish list. Very, very important. All right. Beautiful. So, Jarory, thank you so much for coming on. Thank
you for having me.
It's been far too long.
This is a ton of fun,
We're going to have you on again when Ludo's back. When she's in the States, we'll have you on again so you can say hello to her.
Bet.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Right
all right, cool. So from all of us here at DevHeads, we're not going to see you until the new year. So happy holidays.
It's the normal schedule every other week. So
yeah,
happy holidays.
But it's going to be Christmas and holidays. So happy holidays, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.
See you January 3rd. Good show. Bye bye.
Bye bye.